everybody. Welcome to the Truth Will Set You Free show, brought to you by TLBTV and the Liberty Beacon Project. And we are excited tonight because we always get the best guests. We have Carolyn CJ Jones. Hi, Carolyn.
Hi, Linda.
And
hi, everyone.
Carolyn is an author. She's a poet. She don't realize she's a poet. She's a photographer. She's a forgiveness coach and guide. And she's also a great speaker. She has written a book that has received so many awards. And her heartfelt desire is to let people know that your past does not have to rule your life. She's into walking you through the stages of forgiveness and explaining to you exactly what that means. So, Carolyn, how are you?
I am fantastic, Linda. How are you?
I am great to know that we have somebody in the midst that cares about humanity.
Oh.
Now, I am from Akron, Ohio, and you were from what part of Ohio to go to Kent State?
I live just north of Columbus in a suburb called Worthington.
Okay. And you were brought up with a family of how many children?
There were 6 of us. I was the second oldest. It was quite an experience, Linda. Quite an experience. We had, do you want to hear?
Sure.
Did I tell? Okay. Well, there were 6 of us, so just 6 people, 6 children, and 2 adults makes for its own chaos. But we did a lot of extracurricular activities, camping and stargazing with telescopes. I was encouraged and assisted a great deal in learning how to play the violin, which I played from the age of 10 for 55 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
And you went to college.
I went to college.
And
well, let me say just a little bit more about my childhood. It was very difficult for me. The chaos. I don't do well in chaos, and it was very dysfunctional. It was a situation where discipline frequently crossed a line. I used to come home from high school every night or afternoon and play on the piano over and over and over again. Let there be peace on earth and let it begin with me. I would just sing that. The family never caught on.
Did y'all stay together? Your parents stayed together?
Yes.
You through school and you end up going to college, right?
Yes. We're a strong family.
Right.
We're a strong family.
Nobody's perfect. We know that,
That's right.
But you took the tools and you used what you had gained from them. And one of the things you did, you became a nurse.
I did.
Right. And during that time, you developed programs that helped the children.
Oh, yes. Let me share about that. This was so special. I had been a nurse for about 15 years when I started working for the state of Colorado in their Medicaid department. My role was to authorize or deny home nursing care for people. We had these children, Medicaid eligible children, who were living in the hospital intensive care unit only because they were dependent upon high-tech machinery for their lives. So they had to stay in the ICU, which of course was not good for them developmentally, socially, medically. I worked with the community and with the legislature and with the department where I was employed, and we developed a program that allowed these kids to go home and get hourly nursing care in addition to the care their parents were providing.
Wow.
They thrived, Linda. They thrived.
And how did you come up with the program? Because that really wasn't in your nursing, you know, the
No.
foundation. So how was you able to come up with that?
Well, in my role, like I said, I authorized or denied services. So one day I got a telephone call from Linda, the director of the Children's Hospital Home Care Agency. And she said, we've got these kids in the hospital, yada, yada, yada. And my response was, we don't pay for hourly nursing care. Sorry, click. About 3 months later, she called again. That time I listened to her and I said, oh, it makes great sense that these children get out of the hospital and get into the house. So I started working with the department people, got their approval, took it all the way up to the chain, to the executive director, and she approved me working with the legislature to get a bill to start a pilot program, which we did. And it was just miraculous, the improvements that these kids made.
He was able to go home.
Yes.
Because you came up with a program.
Yes.
Also came up with a program for people that was in prison.
Yes. It's called Freedom from Resentment, the Art of Forgiveness. I gave this program, it's a 6-hour program, Linda, and I gave it to the men at San Quentin Prison, State Prison in California, near to where I live.
Wow.
And they received it so well. It was 2 weeks in a row. And on the second week, 2 of the guys came up to me and said that they had been able to forgive their parents. And that was something they had never been able to do.
Okay, so you have all these gifts that you didn't even realize you had because you're helping people. I mean, when you can help a child, children, that's a gift. When you can help people who has been incarcerated to come to terms with the reality of their choices, that's huge. But then it came a time in your life while you were going to college that you began to realize yourself. And that was because you had a broken heart, am I correct?
You are correct. I had a very broken heart. I was still dating my high school sweetie, even up through senior year of college, and we were planning to get married. We were going to live in a Columbus suburb, have 3 children, and live happily ever after. Well, shortly after Valentine's Day, senior year, I got a letter from him saying that he had gotten married to someone else. Oh, talk about devastated. What a horrible way for him to tell me.
But that had an effect on you because it made you realize that you had something to deal with within yourself.
Well, yes, it didn't come out right away though. It came out, well, what happened was my roommates were beside themselves trying to figure out how to console me. So finally one night they took me out and got me drunk.
And that was your first time, right?
That was my first time. To this day, it was on Ouzo that they got me drunk. And to this day, I cannot smell black licorice without getting slightly nauseous.
And this was because, basically, you said it was because of rejection or anticipation that this was actually your soulmate, you thought?
Yes. Yes.
Wow.
Huge hurt, huge disappointment, huge heartbreak. Yes.
And so, where did that take you?
Well, once I discovered alcohol, I was off to the races. You know what I used to do? I used to do shots of tequila and then go do flips down the main street at Kent. I was crazy, really crazy. What surfaced, though, was my anger over my childhood. Remember, I told you sometimes things cross the line. Well, I was angry for not being appreciated for who I was. The sisters on either side of me were intellectual, and my father was intellectual, and I was a creative type like my mother. But my father kept really comparing me, and I felt hugely put down. And I don't know right off the top of my head how to describe it. I developed a resentment. I developed anger over that. That was just one of the things. There were a lot of things, and I was just angry. And under that anger, I've learned in the course of my healing work that under anger are other emotions like hurt, disappointment, shame, expectation. Those are all under anger. So when someone gets angry, they can stop for a minute and say, what's really behind this? Is it hurt? Am I disappointed? And that helps to dissolve the anger.
Wow. So it took you being rejected by your boyfriend for you to realize that you weren't really at your best place in life. You was just surviving.
Yes. Yes. Excellent way to put it. Yes.
So when you talk about forgiveness, do you think forgiving yourself is a little harder than forgiving other people?
For me, it was. I had to forgive others first before I could forgive myself. Others teach that you have to forgive yourself before you can forgive others. I think whatever works for you is the way to go.
So, okay, so after this experience with this boyfriend, you still proceeded with your life.
I did.
Well, and became a nurse, and you actually got married.
Yes, I did. Actually, what happened is I graduated from nursing school, and for the next 27 years, I practiced nursing and drinking.
Oh, wow. What a combination.
Really, I drank at night. I was a very closet drinker. Well, I used to go out and party too, and in the early days, I used to do things like go to concerts and try and climb up on the stage to say hello to the band.
Wow.
I was crazy. I was really crazy when I was drunk.
And then you also picked up on drugs.
Yes, I did. I did. Early days after I graduated from Kent State, I moved with my high school buddy to Colorado. While there, I did my nursing in a hospital for 3 years. And during that time, we were going to concerts in Denver. We lived about an hour away, and we would drive down to concerts in Denver and eat chocolate mescaline. And so we'd be really ripped for these concerts. I just am amazed and thankful that nothing major ever happened, like a huge accident or something with all this partying that was going on. It could have been disastrous.
So where did your husband come in at if you were already, in the mix of this type of experience in your life? How did your husband evolve into your life?
Well, at one point when I lived in Colorado, after I worked at that hospital, I moved to a ski town and lived in a small town by the name of Fraser next to Winter Park ski area. Well, I met my husband there one night at a party. It was a Willie Nelson party. And I was dancing and he was dancing and he remarked about it. We hit it off. We started talking. So we went out for a date. And on our first date, we were looking for a gram of cocaine. So that kind of tells you, it sets the tone for what the whole marriage was like. It was very alcoholic, very drug related. I had some wonderful times, don't get me wrong. We had great times. We were also two children that were unhealed from our upbringings. He had a traumatic experience in his youth also. His youth was traumatic.
So when did you come to realization that you had a problem, that you needed to do something different?
At the very end, we moved from, my husband and I moved from Colorado to Sausalito, California, to live aboard a sailboat and fix it up and go cruising one day. We bought a 45-foot vessel that was in need of repair. We fixed her up. We were still in the process of doing that when I fell in love with a dockmate. Now, keep in mind, Linda, that our marriage had been really bad for many years. I stayed with it for a very selfish reason, and that was because I didn't want to be alone.
Okay.
I was afraid to be alone, so I stayed, which was horribly unfair to him. Horribly unfair. I finally left to make myself available to this other man. I left the marriage. Come to find out, he didn't care for me. And that was the start of me slipping, well, plummeting to the bottom. I drank and cried for 2 months after he told me that he was only being kind to me, that he didn't even like me. He was just being kind. Oh.
So that was traumatic for you.
Very.
Because that was the second man that has affected you in your life.
Yes. Yes.
So where did that take you to where you began to explore your inner self?
The last 2 months I drank and cried, and that's all I did. I didn't even feed myself until one night I couldn't do it anymore. And I stood on the back of the boat where I was living at the time and cried to the heavens, God, if you're there, please help me. I can't do this anymore. It wasn't a couple weeks later that I got this idea to take a road trip in my little Audi sedan and find myself. The first stop was San Diego to stay with my former bartender who was getting sober herself so that I could get a handle on my drinking.
That band ended up being your refugee, right?
Yes, well, I stayed for 1.5 years, and I did a lot of work on myself.
But you also did a lot of work on that band.
I did.
That band should have been, totaled or something, but you was able to restore it. How did you have that ability?
Well, all through my married life, and every time we wanted something nice, like a house or a boat, we couldn't really afford anything nice. So we would get it and learn how to fix it up. So we were self-taught in how to renovate kitchens and bathrooms, how to redo boats and cars. So when this van came into my life, I already had those skills.
So how did you come to the realization of reinventing yourself?
This has taken years. It hasn't been until about the last 2 years, and I'm 16 years sober, so at 14 sober, I began to realize a change in myself. And that was, I noticed huge peace and freedom that was deeper than ever before. And I noticed constant gratitude. I was in a state of constant gratitude. This is after years of looking at myself, years.
But when you say looking at yourself, what do you mean by that?
Looking at my behaviors and how I've affected others, looking at how I've affected myself. Yeah, just taking a look at where I am in the world, doing a self-appraisal.
Because you said that you had come to realization you didn't know that you could have chose differently. You didn't have the knowledge to understand that you were participating in your own demise.
Yes. Yes, I had no conception. And even for years into recovery, I thought I had no choice but to be upset because, after all, look at what they did to me, meaning my parents. Look what happened. Look what they did to me. And I blamed them for all the ways that I was uncomfortable about myself, all the ways that I had difficulties in my life. It was all their fault. And then after a while, it became all my husband's fault.
So
I was
tell
really
me,
good at playing the blame game.
how did you come up with photoing fences, steel fences?
Well, when I decided to go on this road trip and I had left my marriage, I went back to the boat one day. It was in 2001, February. And I sat on the boat to say goodbye to Rich, my husband. And I looked across the water at this land that was there, and I said, I've never visited there. I'm going to go visit before I leave because I'm never coming back to the Bay Area. So I left and went over and visited and discovered these beautiful entrance gates sitting quietly unused at the bottom of properties. I thought about it. I said, wow, these are beautiful. If I ever get back here one day, I'd like to photograph them. And I went on my way. Well, it so happened I did come back in the winter of 2004. I went and started photographing those gates. Now, mind you, I was taking slides. I currently have 750 slides of gates.
Wow. And that's what fascinates me about those photos. You know, like now people use their phones, you know, they have all this modern technology, they can zero in and everything.
Mm-hmm.
And when I was looking at your photos, I find it amazing that you weren't even a professional photographer and you were able to grasp the life in still.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just phenomenal. Do you have a picture of one that we can see?
Yes,
I want people to have an
do.
idea that I'm not exaggerating when I say this woman used almost Kodak film.
Yes, it was actually Fuji.
Amazing.
It was Fuji film, actually.
Oh, really? Please
Yes.
show us one of your photos that you didn't use no cell phone to do this. Look at that.
This is called Webs of Fear.
Oh my God. And you weren't even a professional photographer.
No.
But the phenomenal thing about it was you had accumulated these pictures.
Yes.
Not knowing that one day there were some words
That we're going to show up with them.
Oh my
Exactly
God.
right. Let me share that I walked around for weeks photographing these gates. Every night I would take my rolls of slides in to be developed, look at them, critique them. No, that's not quite right. I'd go back, shoot, have them developed. And this process continued. Well, while I was doing that, I was journaling. So I was playing with my photos on the one hand, and on the other hand, I was journaling. Now, remember I said I photographed the gates in winter of 2004. Well, in November of 2004, I wrote in my journal one morning, and I'm going to read it to you because, well, I'll tell you why in a minute.
Okay.
I wrote, I have spent a lifetime spinning webs of terror and shame between the spires that stand as sentinels to my heart.
Wow. And that picture went with those words, right?
Yes. And so when I wrote those words, I went, whoa, where in the world did that come from? That
Wow.
was unlike anything that I had written.
Could I see that picture again?
Yes.
Since you read, I have to see that connection that you didn't even know that was coming in your future. Oh my God. So early when you was a child,
Yes.
you didn't really have a lot of confidence that God heard you.
Oh, I had none.
So when did you actually admit that, oh my God, he's been hearing me all along?
It took a long time into recovery. I realized that I had a lightning bolt realization that my purpose in life was to have dealt with the childhood I dealt with and to have been upset about it all through adulthood and gone through my alcoholism and all of that so that I could share with others my story so that they then could heal from their story.
And tell people the name of that book that has these amazing photos and sayings in them. What's the name of the book?
It's called Opening the Gates of the Heart, A Journey of Healing.
That is a beautiful book.
Thank you. It's a wonderful coffee table book. It's a wonderful meditation book. People use it. They'll just randomly open up to a page. Each photo has a verse that goes with it. And most of the verses were found in my journals.
Okay, right now, flip a page.
Okay.
Because I just love that book. I love those photos.
Okay,
I
here's
mean,
one.
especially when you didn't even know you was writing a book.
This isn't a good one because you can't see the detail. Let me flip another one. Here's one. This is called Search of Self. Can you see the shadows and everything?
Yes.
Okay, here's what the verse says. As we examine our swirls and circles, shadows and reflections, darkness and light, do we recognize our humanness? Among our shades of gray, tan, and rust, can we discover our clear heart right in the middle of it, shining brightly, clearly, truthfully?
Wow.
That's the one that goes with that one. Let me do one more.
Sure. I love creativity and beauty and spirit. So just feed me. I'm hungry.
Okay, my favorite one. Here's Sweep of Grace.
Oh, wow. Bring it more closer this way. Oh, my goodness. Wow. And you didn't have a modern camera.
No, I had a film camera.
That is so phenomenal.
I'm trying to sell my digital because I don't know how to operate it. I'm tired of it sitting in the closet.
Those is so phenomenal.
So let me read what goes with Sweep of Grace.
Okay.
Gently, quietly, an unearned favor of great beauty and pleasure is bestowed upon me.
Wow. And this was in your journal?
Well, that one wasn't, but most all of them were.
Wow.
Most all of them were,
And
yeah.
you remember that wasn't in your journal. I mean, you connected.
I know where each one of them came from.
I see that. Wow. But that's just one aspect of yourself as an author and a photographer. And that book was designed to do what for people?
help them open their heart. You see, when I was photographing these day after day, week after week, it finally dawned on me their significance. And that was that the gates represented my heart. Closed.
Wow. And you didn't realize that for a while?
No. Closed from life's pains, my heart was.
So after writing that book, how did you realize that you were supposed to do even more than that? Because you have done even more than that.
I realized I realized my purpose before I published the book. So
And what was that purpose?
I actually worked on the book from 2004 to 2010. It took me that long to get it together and to have the courage to publish it. You see, these were my journal writings.
Wow.
My deep, deep writings. Let me find the one that I want to, oh, I was just one page off. Okay, this is called Cultivation of Differences.
Wow.
Isn't that a powerful image for that title?
Oh my goodness.
Okay, let me read it to you. We ask, require, demand that those around us be like us, share our attributes, our beliefs. And in doing so, we compare one to another. In that process, do we not squash the spirit of one who is different from us? One whose thoughts and dreams and talents lie in a different place? I wrote that in my journal when I was first sober. And that was in 2001. And in 2004, I took the gate picture. And then it goes on to say, we are like the gates. Although similar in design, what thrives in one spot does not grow in another. On one, there is rust or corrosion or patina, while on the other is mellowed brass. One is not more beautiful than another. Each has beauty in its own right. If we will only look, if we will only see.
Wow, that is so useful for what's going on in the world right now.
No kidding.
Oh
Maybe
my
I
God.
should mail a copy of this to the president. Oh my gosh, don't go there, Carolyn. Sorry.
I was thinking that myself. I said the government, CNN, is everybody that's media needs to hear that one and see that gate.
Yeah.
Because it just speaks for itself.
It sure does.
Where we are right now, we need to face that reality.
That's right.
You was ahead of your time.
I really was.
How could you get something like that to the media?
You know, this book was divinely orchestrated.
I know.
It was truly divinely orchestrated. And you know what else, Linda? That deep, deep writing came because I was writing with my non-dominant hand. I had injured my right hand in a work injury, my wrist, and it was too painful to write. Well, I had to journal because that was my only bridge to sanity. So I journaled with my left hand, my non-dominant hand, and that's when all this deep stuff started coming up. It was amazing.
I know. It's still amazing because that last piece that you've done, it really needs to go viral, like with the quickness, Twitter, anything. Just consider what she just said and shared and look at the gates.
That is a great idea. I think I'll tweet this out.
I think you really should. At this given time, people are looking for healing.
Yeah, yeah. That's a great idea, Linda. Thank
I
you.
just feel like you can't let that go because it's really touching and it's real and it's authentic. So it has a lot of power.
Yes.
And people are really reaching right now.
Yes, they are.
And you
Yeah.
also, as a consultant and a guide,
Yes.
2 different programs. Would you like to share that with us also?
Yes. I have the program Change Your Story, Change Your Life, which is basically a 4-hour program. It's virtual, so it's phone calls, recorded phone calls, and workbooks. And then I have another program called Freedom from Resentment, the Art of Forgiveness. The same program I gave to the men at San Quentin, I give to other people as well. And I coach on it privately. So not only do I speak to groups, but I coach privately.
Okay, and so when you talk about forgiveness, what is you really saying?
Freedom. I'm saying it's freedom. It's like dropping off that backpack full of rocks.
Wow.
Because when we carry resentments, we carry all this baggage, this excess weight, this energy that's so negative. When we let go of it, we feel much lighter, more buoyant. It's really awesome.
So what is basically the first step?
To forgiveness
Mm-hmm.
is becoming willing to look at things from a different viewpoint, with fresh eyes, just to becoming willing to let go of some of your resentment so that you can perhaps achieve forgiveness. There's a great definition for forgiveness I'd like to share.
Okay.
Forgiveness is the choice we make to hurt and suffer less, even though we're wounded. Is that beautiful?
Oh, definitely. And you also say it's such a gift when you realize the gift in your womb.
Yes. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
You know, for years, it took me until like a couple years ago, like I said, to realize how much of a gift my wounds were and are. And I'm so grateful for all of them. You know, I even got grateful for the unrequited love debacle because it pried me out of a very dysfunctional marriage. When I realized that, then I started looking at it differently and I started realizing, oh, not only did it pry me out of the marriage, it got me sober. And then, oh, and not only did it do those things, it also led me to forgive my parents. And then it also led me to the work I'm doing today. All of those things hinged upon that dreadful experience. I grieved that loss of what I thought would be a relationship for 7 years. I was so hurt and shattered. I was so shattered.
So would you say that was the what they call it, that just broke you because you already had something already existing that just finished it?
Yeah, that was the straw that broke the
Right,
camel's
that's
back.
what I'm trying to say. So basically, if you didn't have all this, whatever it was before, maybe it would not have taken such a toll, right?
Right. Well, and I also believe it was a part of the rejection I felt from my childhood. I think that was wrapped up in it too. So just rejection as a whole.
Rejection is pretty heavy, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, it really is.
So
It really is.
while you on this forgiveness and understanding of it and the processing of it, what was one of the things you forgave yourself for?
Thinking that I have to be perfect.
You really
And I
felt like you had to
forgave.
be, how do you come up with thinking you could be perfect?
Well, I was supposed to be perfect. And all my actions were geared toward perfection. And when I failed, I would beat myself up mercifully. And I would judge things as a failure that weren't failures. They were just a trial run on something that I did differently the next time I tried it.
And I found it interesting because you were a registered nurse, correct?
Yes.
And you gave that up because,
I didn't think I could continue nursing and stay sober. You know, Linda, I was always uncomfortable with being a nurse. I did not like being responsible for other people's lives in any way, shape, or form.
but you're comfortable with your forgiveness foundation of guiding and coaching
Mm-hmm.
and getting people to a better place. That's more fulfilling for you.
It really is. It really is. Although, when I worked with the children in that program, the Medicaid program, that was very fulfilling. Very fulfilling.
So something made you realize that you had a purpose. When did that click that you were not alone, even though you could not put it in your hands what it was that was guiding you? It was something that made you realize that you weren't alone.
I knew it was God, and I knew it was God because I read the book, Conversations with God. And I read that right before I got sober. From that, I realized that I believed there was a God and that God was in everything and everybody, just like what is talked about in the book. So, armed with that information, it was 2008. No, it was 2007 or 6. I was so distraught over my background, my upbringing, and feeling like the only purpose of my life was to be upset about it. And I was wanting to commit suicide, but didn't have the guts to do it. So I started praying to God to let me die. And I prayed for weeks to let me die. Finally, one day I went to a meeting, a 12-step meeting. And at that meeting, Steve shared. He talked about his anger and his devastation of his childhood. He talked about all sorts of things that I resonated with. He was so I went up to him and talked to him after the meeting and shared with him some of the things that had been working for me. Even though I wasn't healed, I was a few steps ahead of him. I shared my therapist's name. I shared books that I had read that had been helpful. I shared meetings to go to where I had found great support. He was so grateful, Linda. He started crying.
Wow.
I was so touched. I left and walked back to my car. As I did, I started crying because it hit me in an instant that my life had a purpose. If it wouldn't have been for my childhood and the fallout from it, I never would have related to this man.
Wow.
And I never would have been on a healing mission to heal from that childhood And so I never would have been able to suggest to him some resources to try. So I thought, oh my gosh, that's my purpose. My life's purpose is to share with people. By this time, I had learned to forgive my parents. So I forgave them, but I still felt the bad feelings about my upbringing.
So when you say you forgive them, but you still felt the bad feelings, how do you?
I still felt like there was something wrong with me, and I had these bad feelings. But on the other hand, over here, I forgave them for that, but I still had the issues within myself to deal with.
When you say you forgave, what's another word for that?
Wow, I never thought of that.
Because it's confusing me a little bit, because you say you forgave them, but you still had these feelings over here. So it's almost like there's a gap.
Yes, I'm sure it does sound like that. Let me try and say it again. When I forgave them, I realized that, well, what happened was I did the very thing that my father had done to me, I did to the men that I was with in my life. And that was, I used to get drunk and yell and scream at them that they were worthless and would never amount to anything. Well, when I realized that, I knew that that was the exact same thing that my father used to say to me when I was growing up.
So
And
how did you forgive them?
well, suddenly I realized that I was doing the very thing that my father had done, but I didn't mean it about the men. I meant it about myself. And so I had an aha, and that aha was, if I yelled at these men and called them worthless and said they'd never amount to anything, and I meant it about myself, not about them, then it stood to reason that all those years my father called me worthless and said I'd never amount to anything. He meant it about himself.
Wow.
And when I realized that I did the same thing, wow, I had compassion for him. And I began to realize, wow, he must have been dealing with his own wounds. We all have wounds. We're all trying to deal with them, each of us.
So a lot of that's subconscious.
What, the letting go and forgiving them?
The behavior.
Yes, yes.
So it's somewhere in there you have to forgive yourself for your subconscious choices.
Yes, and I have done that.
That's what you're saying. You know, a lot of people don't realize that they can't get to forgiveness because they feel like they shouldn't have done or said certain things, and they don't realize they're on automatic pilot.
Right. That's right. We go on automatic pilot, and we need to stop and take stock of what's going on really. But I found what I teach is allowing people to look at the people in their lives whom they resent from perhaps a different standpoint, and seeing that, well, maybe they were wounded, and that kind of explains it. When that explains it, then you can have a little more leniency and you can let go of your resentment because you see where it came from. You see where their behavior came from.
It's not personal.
It's not personal. Right, right.
Beautiful.
Right.
Yeah, because it doesn't seem like you had any pain in your life. You got that beautiful glow, that beautiful smile, and you have a
Oh,
desire to give to people. You want people to be happy, and you want them to come to self-realization that Don't judge yourself by other people's action and words to you. And you're good at that.
Yes, that's exactly right.
You're good
Don't
at
judge yourself by what others say. Yes, excellent, Linda.
it. And
I
you're
like that.
also working on another book for us too, right?
I am. I'm designing it on Shutterfly, having a great time with it. It's called, and I just came up with the subtitle with the help of people on Facebook yesterday or 2 days ago. So the title of the book is Gates of Grace, One Woman's Journey to Wonder and Wisdom.
Wow, that's beautiful.
Isn't that
So
beautiful?
you think it'll be this year or next year that it'll be out?
This year.
Really?
Well,
That'll be a beautiful Christmas present.
it really would. I should take that back and explain a little bit. I'm not going to self-publish this book. I want to have it published for me. So I'm doing this book and printing up one or two and sending that around to various publishers and shopping with that book so that they can see what a book by me would be like.
Well, they are in for a fantastic treat because I still haven't gotten that first book out of my mind.
Oh,
It's beautiful. It's grace.
thank you. Thank you.
It's anointed. So people wanted to reach you. How would they reach you?
Well, they could email me at CJ at Carolyn CJ Jones. That's my first and last name with my initials in the middle. And Carolyn is spelled Carolyn. So it's CJ at CarolynCJJones.com. Or frankly, they could call me, and I do take calls. However, I do not pick up if I don't recognize a number, so people need to start talking when the answering machine comes on. If I'm there, I'll pick up. If I'm not, please leave a message. My phone number is 415-883-8325. That's 415-883-8325.
And tell people what CJ represents.
Oh, you've got all the good ones.
Yeah.
Well, when I published my book, I was told by the experts that I needed to establish a platform so that people knew me. And I needed to find out how well people knew me, so I Googled myself. I never came up because there were 25 and more pages of Carolyn Jones, the actress. I thought, oh dear, this will never do. So I figured I needed to do something to distinguish my name. It so happens that I had, when I was a senior in high school, one of the leads in the musical Carousel. I was Carrie Snow, which was a real ham part, and I hammed it up. My chum, the one I moved to Colorado with that I was talking about earlier, she nicknamed me because I was such a ham, the original Cracker Jack. And that is what CJ stands for, Cracker Jack.
Wow. And Carolyn.
Yes.
You are on the Truth Will Set You Free show. Give us a memory to remember you by, a truth.
A truth. Gratitude can transform your life. If you find one small thing to be grateful for in a difficult situation, then that will change the direction of your thought process, and you will begin to see more gratitude, because gratitude begets gratitude. This
is true. I know that for a fact.
And forgiveness will set you free. Oh, did I say the definition of forgiveness?
Yes, you can say it again.
Okay. Oh, okay. Forgiveness is the choice we make to hurt and suffer less, even though we're wounded.
And we really appreciate you for being on our show today.
Oh, Linda, this has been my pleasure. Thank you so much.
Those pictures are so memorable.
Thank you.
And you're welcome to come back, especially when this book comes out, because I definitely have to have my copy.
Okay, well, we'll get you one.
Take care.
Okay, thank you, Linda. Bye
Bye-bye.
now.